Schmelson illustration. My favorite color is purple and I enjoy creating art. And in today's video we are doing another Technique Tuesday where I take the illustration of somebody that I admire. Today's is Maddie_arts. Her illustration here that I believe was a draw this in your style of somebody else. I think her technique is absolutely stunning, and so I will be recreating it into my own design. I do want to say that it was very difficult to do this illustration. I don't quite understand the process in how Maddie_arts illustrates her pieces. There was even a speed painting dealio on her Instagram post for this, and I still didn't quite get it. So there are so many textures and layers, and she lowers opacities on different things. Like, if you zoom in here, we've got a line, and then we've got shading over that line. And the color gets darker for the line that was under the original one. And you can see it over here, and you can see it up in here. And there's just so many layers, and I don't know which order she did things, and then the highlights, and then she uses solid lines or a solid brush, and then she uses a textured brush, and it turns out beautiful. This has so much going on in it, this illustration. I don't think I did it justice, and when I tried learning from it, tracing over it, like I did right here, this is my trace. Here's Maddie's, here's mine, here's Maddie's, here's mine. And I just didn't do it justice. I did learn so many things. Something I really enjoyed was the eyes. It's very simple, but you get the point across. I kind of like the shading that's underneath the bottom of the eye along with the eyelid. It's a little makeup-y, but it gives a bit more depth and realism, or maybe even a softness to the face shape that I really appreciated. And I really enjoy even how simplified the eyes with pupil is, and then that shadow over top with the lowered opacity so it like interacts with the two colors differently. I just thought that turned out really great, because I definitely have an issue where I overdo the eyes with a whole bunch of details, and then you don't even see it when you pull farther away from it, and it's whatever. Something I thought I did relatively well on this was the shirt. Just because there were so many textures, I feel like it was a little bit easier to I don't know. I like how the shirt turned out, actually. I also just found way more brushes to work with that I haven't worked with in a very long time. I'm so used to doing this hard brush, but I ended up using this freckle brush for these little spots and for literally the freckles on the face. And then there was more of a chalk pastel-y color, or chalk pastel type of brush where you get this nice texture in here and contrast it against the harsh line for the highlights and some of this shading. Oh, it just looks beautiful. And there's just so much going on, which I think is really cool for the hair, because I sometimes will get really distracted by just the line art for hair. But I mean, it's simplified, yet there's so much going on, and it's got so much visual intrigue, and we've got shading here, but we've got shading here, and it's completely different types of shading, and it just turned out great. So there's a lot kind of going on in here. I didn't necessarily master or ace the techniques, but let's just see how close I can get, or what I can take away, what kind of inspiration I can grab from Maddie_arts illustration and put into my own piece featuring my boyfriend Watson, featuring my boyfriend Cameron, and my kitty cat Watson. And to start off, we do a base layer of colors for all the different sections. And I did want to note on the fact that this Technique Tuesday is a little bit different than normal, because my illustration is a different subject matter category to the original, because normally I try and stick with the same basic elements from the original and make the two illustrations look very similar. Like if the main illustration in this one is a female with long hair. She's got her eyes open and her mouth mostly closed, and there's a cat. So I would draw all of those things, but this time I'm switching it up. I'm doing a little bit more of the body than is in the original piece. The mouth is completely closed on Cameron. Well, thank you, Watson. And it's a boy with short hair instead of a girl or a human with long hair. So those are a little bit different, but I just couldn't help myself. I just really, with the inspiration of the cat in this illustration, I really was just inspired to draw my kitten, Watson, who we adopted about 4 months ago, and I just love him to pieces, and I love my boyfriend, and I want to just have this, and I thought the illustration style would be really helpful in drawing the face for Cameron. I don't know why, I was just inspired to do so, and like this is what I saw and it just fit, and I'm really excited about it. Now on to some simple outlines, very, very minimalistic compared to what I normally do. I like to outline every little tiny detail, but we keep it pretty simple for here. I'm still using a hard brush for the outlines. I haven't moved on to a textured brush at all. Using the same brush to fill in some shadows, and then I lower the opacity for that to create the shadows, but it's still kind of like the same thing, and that's where Maddie_arts kind of gets that layered effect where the colors overlap and like adjust to one another. I did bump up the saturation on this shading color because I noticed when I didn't do that in my tracing and my practice, it really dumbed down and muted the shading color. Next we move on to the face, which made a whole lot more sense to me than the rest of the illustration when trying to follow Maddie_arts technique, just because it's easier to see. I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed how the eyes and the nose were drawn. Normally I'm really into adding detail to cute noses, and Cam actually has a really big nose, and so I was nervous about not being able to draw that by just doing this like smudge line with the nostril lines. I also really like the eyebrows on this. Normally I have difficulty figuring out how to draw Cam's eyes because I'm not used to drawing big bushy eyes, and really they're just kind of massive blobs. But without seeing somebody else do it first, I don't think I had the confidence just to do that big massive blob and have it be rendered or picked up by the eye as an eyebrow and like understood in that way. So I'm very happy with this, and the little extra lines to add that detail to show that it is hair, I think really helps it out. I was very simplified with the line art for the hair, along with the line art on the shirt, just kind of, keeping it minimalistic, same way that I did on the face. And then you kind of go in and add shading later with a lower opacity of a bumped up color version of that line art here. Here is where we have some fun working on Watson and doing that type of coloring. I've never really drawn cats before. I attempted to sketch Watson once upon a time when we first got him, and it was awkward and weird, and then I stopped and didn't even finish it. But I really love the inspiration or the technique that Maddie_arts use, and I'm hoping that it works out here, essentially. I did really enjoy it, and I kind of got lost in the whole technique. Normally, I'm used to people doing a line art, and then you color in the line art with a base layer colors, just like a simple coloring book, and then you add some shading, then you add some highlights, and then you call it good. Pretty easy, straightforward steps, consistent with one another. One step, you finish, and you move on to the next. Very much so a right-brained artist, and I like to have an order, and I like to have a structure, which is why I'm glad that I'm doing this challenge, that's getting me out of that comfort zone and trying new things and thinking of art in new ways, so I can maybe be a little bit more artistic and like get lost in the process of it and that enjoyment and that creativity side of it, instead of just like do this, check it off the list, do the next thing, check it off the list, do the next thing, check it off the list, and then at some point there's a final product. So I really like this. It was fun to experiment, and I definitely got to use so many more different brushes. I didn't even know that this freckle brush existed, and I loved how Maddie_arts used a dark color for the freckles and a light color. I think it just added an extra dimension to that I would have never thought to do on my own. So I'm glad I got to see that, and I'm glad I incorporated it into Watson's back. I think that turned out very nice. So now we're doing shading on Cameron, just to kind of get those final bits of detail, shading, all that kind of thing. And again, here I'm going back and forth between, I use an airbrush to kind of brighten things up, and then I went back to more of a chalky brush to do shading, and then the blush, and just kind of experimenting between all of those. I was nervous about doing blush on Cameron just because he's a boy, and I didn't want the blush to like look extra girly or like make him look feminine. You know what I mean. Or like just kind of lose that personality, or like warp his personality. But in the end, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I liked how I did the highlighting on the shirt, and even just a little bit of highlighting on the eyebrows to add that gradient. I think turned out very nice, just to, I think, bring it in to the face. I think it just like matched better with the rest of the face. And then the tiny little bit of highlighting on the hair. And now we're finishing up with a highlight to kind of bring it all together. And, you know, it looks pretty nice. Okay, and here is our final piece. Really glad with how it turned out. It's really subdued and subtle, and I don't think it took all of the cool elements that Maddie_arts uses in her illustration. I think all the textures and different elements worked best in Watson here, because there really is so much going on, and I think that like fits for the cat. Even though I didn't necessarily like totally ace this whole face shape and everything, and there's not like a whole bunch of emotion in there, for my very first cat illustration, I ain't mad about it. I do love how the chalk highlight totally pulls the entire illustration together and makes them seem like they're on the same plane between Watson and Cameron. And I like how it turned out. The technique that Maddie_arts uses for her hair, I absolutely loved it. Cam has much shorter hair, so I couldn't do all of those textures, and even like trying to throw in a highlight. I probably, if I had sketched them out where I wanted the highlights to go, maybe would have been able to figure it out. But I didn't, and I'm satisfied with how this turned out. And I think this is a great eye shape for him. He's got the more like closed eye, and his eyelashes go down, and so like this simplified eyelash and then the little bit of shading to show that they're kind of hidden away, I think that fits him perfectly. When I draw him again in the future, I'm gonna be kind of taking inspiration from this. So yes, very happy with how this turned out. Thank you so much for watching. Please go send some love to Maddie_arts. She does some great illustrations. I absolutely love what she's doing. She just recently did something super cute with a self-portrait of her with her plant, which I thought was absolutely adorable. And even further back, she did a couple illustrations of her cat and then some character designs to go along with her different cats, which helped me out a whole lot when trying to draw Watson here. So that was extremely helpful. So please, her information is down below. Please go check her out. Thank you again so much for watching. If you'd like to support Schmelson Illustration, we are on Instagram, Pinterest, Etsy, and Ko-fi. If you'd like to, that information is all below. I hope that these videos are exciting for you to watch. If they are, please hit like and subscribe. Would love to see you again as I make some more Technique Tuesdays. Again, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye.